Starting to feel young again. I did this with Rabbi Lukowski. I did this for 15? I did it for 30 years. And now I became a senior citizen. Now I do it only to older people. So I feel good again. Actually, last night I had a fader for my group with Rabbi Leshus, and that really brought back memories. It was 30-some years ago. Rabbi Leshus was a Rosh Yeshiva in Australia, and I was a bocher by him, so I started feeling young again. You know, one of the beautiful things, Yiddish English. One of the beautiful things that the Rebbe taught us is you never get into a routine that it gets boring. You have the schus, you see that you read the sichos, every couple of weeks, the Rebbe saw you, okay, things are getting stable, you have to have a little more chayas, of a new mitzvah. Or, I mean, for Bochum especially, but it's a Purim, if it's a Pesach, if it's a Lag Baimer, there is no downtime. Shlomo Melech says, Dover be'itoy ma toiv, right? It's always, Daf Leben mit der Zeit. And now it's before Purim, before Pesach, the halacha of Shleishim Yoyim Lefnei HaChag. So you have to, instead of what you're learning Gemara Gittin now, right? Instead of learning Gittin, which is same old, let's live with the times. Let's live with the times. As this week is Shabbos Mevarchim, and it's Parshas Mishpatim, and it's the first one of the four Parshas, Parshas shekolim. What does Parshas shekolim specifically have to do with you? And if it has to do with you, unmarried people, what does it specifically have to do with Bachrim your age? Is there any connection? So let's start with ground zero, basics. First of all, if you want to know that if a young person can have a koyach, so when you read this Shabbos, when you're going to read the Haftarah, if you don't fall off the chair seeing how much koyach a young person has by reading the Haftarah, then you're missing something. You're going to learn the Haftarah from Parshas shekolim. You're going to learn a piece of history, and you're going to learn about a person who became a melech b'Yisrael at 7 years old. At 7 years old, he became the melech, and he ran the melucha. I think it was for 40 years. 40 years all was good, and then something happened, and it snapped, and in no time, he fell apart, and the whole melucha fell apart. Now, this is the first Torah. What happened that he fell apart? Where is that? What?
The advisor's talking about since you're in the without time, then you're yourself
Why did it take 40 years for his advisors to tell him that? Why for the first 40 years he was able to stay strong? So when you're looking at today's Torah, you'll see a lesson that you must take it to life. It says, Vayas Yehoyash Hayosher Be'ena Hashem Kol Yomav Asher Hayro Yehoyada HaKohen. Yehoyash, who became the Melech, he was 7 years old when he became the Melech, and for the next Kol Yomav, he did everything right because he followed Asher Hayro Yehoyada HaKohen. His teacher, his Rebbe, Yehoyada, taught him, as long as he followed what his Rebbe taught him, he was good. When does the trouble begin? The trouble begins when his Rebbe, Yehoyada, passes away. When his Rebbe, Yehoyada, passes away, and Yehoyash thinks, I once heard a Geschmack of word, the Reb David Raskin, the Mashpia in 770, used to say, a fertige apple falt arop from boim, which means to say, when you look at a fruit tree, you'll see many fruits growing on the tree. And then at what point does the apple fall? The apple on its own? When it's ripe and it's ready, I'm on my own. When we, as Chassidim, the reason why we don't want to fall off the tree, because we are a work in progress. When you say about yourself, I still need the chayas, I still need the connection, I still need to be tied to Ilana Dechaya, then you've connected to the tree. If you walk around like Mr. Perfect, I'm ready, I'm on my own, the apple falls away from the tree. A Ferretica apple, an apple that's all ripe, I'm all done, boom, you're off. So it always have to be connected. So the second he lost his connection to his Rebbe, I think it says within 7 months he was killed. Within 7 months he died. He was on his own. You're on your own. You know, there's a very famous sikha from the Rebbe about Taka Megillah. The story of the Megillah, the Rebbe says, the Gemara Megillah says, that what was the big crime? What was the big crime that the Yidden did that deserved as scared at lahashmit, laharik, larbe? So the Gemara brings different reasons. Says the Rebbe, none of these reasons deserve Misr Rahman Litzlan. And the Rebbe's Hezber is beautiful. The Rebbe's Hezber is, you're right, it doesn't deserve a Misr, or even a scare of Misr. But the fact is, for the Yidden to survive in Olam Hazeh today, you need a nest. Why do you need a nest? Because we are one shepsela amongst 70 hungry wolves. And every one of the nations wants to have us for lunch. So how do we survive? So you're connected to the Eibishter, and the Eibishter miraculously saves us. The Eibishter miraculously saves us. So as long as you connect to the Eibishter, so the Eibishter says, oh, you're with me, you're living supernatural. You're living shalei al piderech hateva. But if you're on your own, you're on your own. Goodbye, you're good for lunch. The chefs, the hungry wolves will take you. So we have to stay connected, just that we shouldn't be fartzuk from other nations. Because apitava atamama atmikolam. So if you look in the Haftarah, it's eye-popping the strength you have as a 7-year-old, and then the strength you have, Rahman al-Islam, everything you lose when you disconnect yourself from Ilana Dechaya. Rahman al-Islam. Well, that's the Haftarah. And that's the Haftarah of the Parshas shekolim. We know that whenever the Dalit Parshas come out on whatever Shabbos, you don't read the Haftarah of the Shabbos as Parshas Mishpatim. You read the Haftarah of shekolim. That's fine. What's shekolim have to do with a bach of your age? You want to give the shir?
No.
You're almost talking as much as I'm talking.
I do.
What does shekolim have to do with? I want to ask an apology.
Yeah.
You know why?
Yeah.
I hope I didn't embarrass you. I didn't embarrass you, but I just taught a din in Shulchan Aruch to in Choshen Mishpat to a group of senior people. Senior meaning say older people, married people. And the Choshen Mishpat says a certain halacha, and I interpreted as a teacher. In Shulchan Aruch it speaks about if you rent a car, obviously it's not talking about a car, it's talking about a donkey, or if you hired somebody to move your boxes. Okay? So imagine you're moving from here to Montebello. So you call a moving company, they expect the boxes should be, the average boxes, 40 pounds, 50 pounds. So that's what they understood they're going to take. You were smarter, right? You know smart people. Your boxes, you were cheap, so your boxes you made 70 pounds. So you have less boxes because they only charge per box. So the Shulchan Aruch paskins that if you didn't tell them that up front, then if the guy hurts himself carrying your box, even if he's the Shulchan Aruch goes as far as saying, even if he's a bardas, we're talking about a mature, intelligent person, when he starts schlepping the box, he realizes that it's heavier. And he continued going, so that would be a sign that he understood it's a 70-pound box, and he still took it upon himself to do it. Nevertheless, Shulchan Aruch paskins that if he hurts himself, I have to pay for jipping him and making the boxes too heavy. Even though he understood. Why? Because Shulchan Aruch says, because when the person was carrying the box, he must have thought, what's going on? Why is this heavier for me? I must have a stomachache. He didn't realize that it's because the boxes are heavy. He must have thought, I schlep boxes every day. This must be my problem. But the truth is, it wasn't his problem. So I'm chayav to pay for making the extra weight in the box. I'll tell you a story of the Rebbe. Story of the Rebbe. If you look in Shuvas Yivurim, this letter is even mentioned in Shuvas Yivurim. Rabbi Emanuel Shachat, I don't know if you know Olav Shalom, I don't know if you guys know who he was. He had a lot of kira from the Rebbe. So it's even brought in Shuvas Yivurim as the halacha. He once wrote to the Rebbe telling him a story, telling him a trip he took to Israel. And he did this. He was very detailed of everything he did. And he writes to the Rebbe, I don't know what airline he went, El Al, or I don't know when he went. He says, hey, Rebbe, I was only allowed to take X amount of weight. I smuggled in a couple extra pounds in my suitcase and I got everything in. He writes that thing. The Rebbe writes back to him, you should know that it's asur apitin. If there is, we all don't do that, right? If the airline allows a certain amount of weight, and you smuggle in more, you look in Shuvas Yivurim, it's even quoted. You're not allowed to do that. Tovos akum is mutter, but gzelas akum is not allowed. Anyways, so this is the halacha. I'm back to my apology. So I took this halacha and I was thinking to myself, when the teacher teaches Torah, he has to teach Torah in such a way that it's pleasant, it's geschmack, it's sweet. If it becomes a load, if it becomes a weight, and it overloads somebody, like chas v'shalom, the teacher becomes the mazik, because there is what the person can handle. You can handle a loose day, a relaxed day, but if I give homework and knossim, that's maybe no, but there's a lot of certain knossim you're supposed to get. Don't go. You're supposed to get knossim. All right, anyways, that's my apology. So where am I up to in my share?
Forgot.
You forgot.
Oh,
Huh? What's your last name?
Vigor.
Vigor? Okay, so let's go to what does your age bacher have to do with shekolim? So after Tzalachis, you guys don't have a Mishnayos. Are you obligated at your age, you're anywhere between 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds, are you obligated in the mitzvah of shekolim? So of course you're thinking to yourself, I'm bar mitzvah. If I am bar mitzvah, just like I put on tefillin every day, just like I have to fast on Yom Kippur, this is a mitzvah like any other mitzvah. Correct? So let's talk about that. What? What'd you say? So you're quoting the pasuk, right? You're, what's your name? Binyaminson?
No, Hershey.
Which one? From where?
Kingston.
I go there very often.
Yeah.
You're not my cousin, are you? All right. So you're quoting the pasuk. What's the pasuk? The pasuk says, Azoi. The pasuk zog. Kisisas Rosh B'nai Yisrael of Kedayim. When you're going to count the Jews, then to make sure that you don't count them by person, because then chas v'shalom there could be a plague. You're not supposed to count number of person. Zeh yitnu. That's how he said. A better way to do it is, I heard a Geshmak Levart. He's saying, if you don't want to count the people, because that Rachmana litzlan could be a plague, the way to count them is by giving a coin, so you're counting the coins. You know what? If it's such a problem, just don't count them. If counting them is a problem, after you have to come up with a whole roundabout way, don't count. It says in Chassidish Svarim, no. When did the Eibishter count here? The Eibishter wanted the counting after Chet HaEgel. Not to count the Jews after Chet HaEgel wasn't an option. Why wasn't it an option? Because that time the Yidden were broken. The Yidden were broken-hearted. They fell deep in Shmutz. So the Eibishter wants to tell a Yid, you're deep in Shmutz, I want to count you now. I want you to know that I care about you. So not to count is not an option. I want to count you. I want to show, as Rashi says, I want to show the chiba that I have with you. However, I got to figure out that the counting shouldn't cause Rahman al-Tzlan and Negev. All right, we figured it out. What do we do by a minion? A Shia, Samach, what the Rebbe says.
I would do coins.
Yeah, you can do coins. Yeah, Machzis a shekel. So now, you said, Hershkop says, who's a eunuch here? Oh, of course, you, I'm here. Hershkop says, it says, Miben Esrim Shana. So listen to how many times does it say the word Machzis in these couple of psukim? How many times? Just listen to the pasuk. Zeh yitnu. Kol ha'over al kudim Machzis ha-shekel v'shekel ha-kodesh. Esrim Geira ha-shekel Machzis ha-shekel Truma ha-shekel. How come? It said twice, and until now, it only says Kol ha'over al kudim. Anybody who's being counted. Then the next pasuk says Kol ha'over al kudim. Oh, mi ben esrim shana v'mayla. Anybody who's being counted from 20 years on, Yitin Trumas Hashem, and then it says another pasuk, Ha'ashir la'yariba v'adal la'yamid mimachzis hashekel. So from here we know there were 3 machzis hashekel. One was for the karbonis tzibur, and the other was for the adonim, for the sockets of the mishkan, and the other one's for bedek habayis, for making sure that the Beis Hamikdash is taken care of. But there were 3 machzis hashekel, and where does it say mi ben esrim shana v'mayla? You obviously know the pasuk. When you look in Rambam in Hilchos Shekolim, the Rambam says kol ish mi Yisrael is chayiv to give shekolim. The exceptions are what the Mishnah says. What does the Mishnah say in shekolim? The Mishnah says azoi. The Mishnah says, who's responsible to pay? Who's responsible? Esmi memashkinin, who we could force. If we see they didn't produce, they didn't give the money, we could take a mashkin from them. I'll tell you who. Leviim, any Levi that he's not on the list, we're going to take a mashkin from him. Yisraelim, any Yid, Vigerim, Va'avodim, Avaloi, Nashim va'avodim uktanim. Avodim is shekharim before. But women that didn't pay, don't let them go. A slave, let them go. And no ktanim. So when you hear the word katan, you of course walk around on the katan, right? I'm a mitzvah already. When the Mishnah says that ktanim are exempt, when the Mishnah says ktanim are exempt, what is ktanim? Under a mitzvah. So you would be responsible to bring machzis hashekel. And according to the Rambam says not ktanim. So the Minchas Chinuch says, you're right. Anybody over 13 would have to give machzis hashekel. Now machzis hashekel then, and machzis hashekel later on was different. There's the machzis hashekel that Moshe Rabbeinu charged then. That was 3, and then there was the machzis hashekel every year. Every year from now on until today, we make a zeicha from it. That's a machzis hashekel, right? But you just told me that it says mi ben esrim shana v'mayla. So this is a big machlokes in the Achrayim. How could the Chinuch and the Ramban talks about it? How could they say that anybody over b'mitzvah has to give machzis shekel if it says mi ben esrim shana v'mayla? So in short, this mi ben esrim shana v'mayla, it all depends which machzis shekel is referred to what part of the pasuk, because there are 3 of them. 3 times it says mi machzis. Mi ben esrim shana v'mayla doesn't say on all 3. It only says there's 2. Then it says mi ben esrim shana v'mayla. Then there's the 3rd one. The 3rd one, it seems to be that you're mechuyev even if you're under ben esrim shana. And what's the reason? Where is the cutoff number of 20? I thought once you're 13, 20-year-old, once you're 13, you're a gadol. What's 20 make a difference? So we know that in 2 halachas we find the number 20. Number 1, you find the number 20 that even if a person does an avera as a bar mitzvah boy, you're not a bar oinshim until you're 20. And over here it says lechaper al nafshei seichem, and the whole thing was a kapara. So maybe that's why you have to be 20. A second reason is, a second place where we find 20, a person, I don't know what you guys think about yourself, but even though you're considered a guggle, but you're not yet mature to wheel and deal and do business. The business, I mean, today's days there are plenty of young guys that are wheeling and dealing. But in halacha, a cotton can't really do business in his father's possessions unless he turns 20. When he turns 20, he's mature enough that we believe that his actions, business actions, are proper. He has enough maturity in business. So we find the concept of 20. So back to your statement, you're right. This is the Rambam, however, paskins that the machzis hashekel is up to 13. Even if you look in the Hilchos and Megillah, you'll see the Ramah brings the machlokes. If your age have to give machzis hashekel. Anyways, so there is a vart from the Rebbe here, a beautiful chiddush from the Rebbe, that I think if you take this chiddush, take this chakir, you can answer a lot of problems. Let me introduce one more problem. It's a mitzvah. Machzis shekel is a mitzvah. Why don't you make a bracha? Today's days it's a zecher, but when the person came and gave the machzis shekel, did he make a bracha? Huh?
No.
Why not? It's a mitzvah like any other mitzvah. You put on tefillin, you make a bracha. The shaila of which mitzvahs you make brachas on is a very, very, very big general shaila. There's a rajba, there's a rush about which mitzvahs you make brachas on. And usually they say that at tzedakah you don't make a bracha. Tzedakah is also v'sayich tiftach es yadcha. Why don't you make a bracha when you give tzedakah? So the answer is, there's two basic answers which we follow. One answer is any mitzvah, in the bracha you say asher kiddushanu b'mitzvayso, something that the Eibishter made us holy, different, greater than the goyim. There are plenty of goyim that give a lot of charity. You don't necessarily see how the kiddushanu b'mitzvayso when a person gives tzedakah. Okay, or kibbud of aim is an aseres adibris. Every time you give your parent a cup of coffee, you should make baruch. Want to ask a question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the second reason is because if you make a bracha, you don't know if the guy might become dead.
That is an answer that's brought. That any mitzvah that you can't start and finish the mitzvah on your own. It's dependent on the second person. You never know if it's going to be a bracha or batala.
Can't you the same thing for Rabbi?
Why?
Same as Gailos.
That's why we don't make a bracha kibbud avayim. But by machzis, by machzis hashekel, there are many other reasons. One of the reasons it's brought about machzis hashekel is the mitzvah. When you gave machzis hashekel, one of the reasons it's brought like this. When you gave machzis hashekel, you didn't really accomplish anything yet. Because why is there machzis hashekel Rosh Chodesh Adar? Why is be'echad ba'adar mashmiyam al shkolim? Why now? Why not Tu B'Shvat? Why not Chanukah? What's now? It's because the Mishnah says, because in a month later they have to start bringing the new karbanis. The new cycle of karbanis starts Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and every Yid has to be involved in the buying of the daily carbon. So we start our fundraiser a month before. Rosh Chodesh Nisan, you have to bring new karbanis. So a month before the fundraiser has to be, so every Yid should find the machzis shekel to be part of it. You didn't have to give it necessarily then, but you have, from now on, one second, you announce, because you have to prepare 30 days from now. So one of the answers which is given is when the guy gave machzis hashekel, he didn't really, it wasn't done yet. The machzis hashekel was, so you should be, so in a month from now, you were able to buy a carbon. So because at the time that he gave a machzis hashekel, the job wasn't done, maybe you can't make a bracha. See, that's the Rajba's answer. You want to say something? Yeah.
Yeah. You said earlier about things you have to be 24. There's another thing you have to be 24 is for the army.
Right. You're going to count it only 20. So you just remember, if you're not 20, You don't know everything. Yeah.
If they're making a 30-day fundraiser, others.
Yeah, they make a 30-day charity, a matching fund.
They not every year is other
So it's the
has 30
second
days.
one, you're right.
So-
You're saying this.
So why not make it Kamishas B'Shvat or something like that?
Okay.
That way they're able to, get
Okay,
a
so let me answer your question.
fundraiser.
The Gemara says in Megillah that how much time does a person have to prepare? I'm sure that when you have a Chanukah Pa'ula, you're going to ask your Rosh Hashiva 9 months in advance. We have to have Seder off because we have to make the menorahs and like Boimer. No. What does Halacha say? How much time do you need before Yom Tov? So this is actually a machlekes between the Chacham and Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. Chachamim say you need 30 days in advance. And Shimon Gamliel says 2 weeks in advance is enough. Right? So 30 days, because the new korbanos come from Rosh Chodesh Nisan, so now 30 days earlier we make our matching funds. Hold on. The Gemara says, what's it about Rabbi Shimon Gamliel? Rabbi Shimon Gamliel doesn't need 30 days. He says 2 weeks is enough. 15 days. Huh?
We hold like a Rosh Hashanah for Hanukkah.
Who?
Yeshiva.
I like the coming.
So Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, he likes the Chum. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, when are you going to learn? Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, well, I'll tell you why it's 2 weeks in advance. The Gemara says that the exchange market, the shulchanos, the ones who exchange money, sit on the 15th of the month. So for everybody to be able to find the right money and do the all exchanges, we have to give them 2 weeks in advance. Because we are gearing it up for the exchange market, which is the 15th day of the month. So the Chachamim are doing it 30 days advance before when you bring a carbon. Shimon Gamliel is doing it 2 weeks in advance before the exchange market is open. This is the Gemara. Now listen to a sikha from the Rabbi. There's a sikha in Chelik Tazayin where the Rebbe says that machtis hashekel, you could look at it in 2 ways. One way to look at machtis hashekel is, you're right, the goal is to bring karbanos. Carbon tibur tamid shel shachar. That's what we're looking for. And every yid has to be part of that carbon. That's what we want. For every yid to be part of the carbon, so we have to have jangy, you have to have a little money. And every yid has to be part of it. Alright, so 30 days in advance we make a matching grant, we make a fundraiser. But the fundraiser is not the end is the carbon. That's one way to look at it. There's another way to look at it. You know the sikha, I'm saying it's so good that you see the answer. He's getting excited from the sikha. This is good. When somebody gets, now you don't get excited about shtuyot, you get excited from what you hear, geshmak avor. The second way to look at machzor shekel says, no, what, not later. When you give the machzor shekel, that is the mitzvah. The kapara is, it's not going to become a kapara when a carbon is brought with it. Giving the machzor shekel is a kapara. So this is a very easy answer to way to explain Rav Shimon Gamliel and the Chachamim. Chachamim say, no, the kapara is only when you bring the carbon, so it's 30 days in advance. Rav Shimon Gamliel says the machzor shekel itself is the kapara. I don't have to wait. There's no time here. Why am I doing it now? I'll tell you why I'm doing it now. There's another Gemara. The Gemara says that the Yidden gave machzor shekel. The Eibishter commanded the mitzvah of machzor shekel. Why? Hiktim shekleihem l'sheklalav. The Eibishter says, I see later on there's going to be a shmendik called Haman, and he's going to try to bribe Achashverosh with a sack of gold, a sack of money. And the Gemara actually says, Tosfos over there says that he used a specific amount of money to the number, the exact lahavdil, the amount of yidden there were. He wanted to do every trick in the book. So the Eibishter says, let's be makdim refuah lamaka, and if we give shekolim for a positive thing before him, we outsmarted him. We did better. You're going to be makdim the refuah lamaka. So Rav Shimon Gamliel says, I hold the machzis shekel itself is a kapara. So it's not for 30 days in advance garnished. And doing it now is because it's 2 weeks before I'm the 2-week man, right? Rabbi Shimon is the 2-week man. And in 2 weeks from now is the time of Purim. We're hitting them shekolim with shekolim. What are the Chachamim going to say to that? The Chachamim are going to say to that, nice svara, but if you look in the Megillah, you will see that the Nes of Purim Taka happened in Yudalid. But when did the trouble start? When did the trouble start? B'chodesh Harishain Hipul Pur. It says in Nisan time is when Haman made the lottery to decide Rahman al-Islam which day to use for hurting the Jews. So the Chachamim, remember by them it's always a chain reaction. It's not what's now, it's what's going to be. The Chachamim say we have to be 30 days advance from when the trouble started. The Shimon Gamliel says, I want 2 weeks from the Nes. Answer the previous question. Why don't you make a bracha on the machzis shekel? You don't make a bracha on the machzis shekel now. The answer the Rajba gave, according to the Rebbe, depends how you look at it. The Rajba's answer is because it's not final, right? There's another thing that has to be bought, but according to one way how the Rebbe looks at it, the machzis shekel itself is a kapara. So there must be other reasons why you don't make a bracha. Huh?
So it doesn't hold like that opinion.
So what's the reason you don't make a bracha?
It doesn't hold like that opinion.
There is actually an opinion that's brought from one of the Rishonim that they did make a bracha because the bracha you made was ala the mitzvah is the hafrasha. Some say that it's different. Parshas, you can say the same thing with tzedakah. You're not really giving anything because what you're giving doesn't belong to you anyways. It belongs to the Beis Hamikdash. You know the very famous story. Who is it? Rabbi Avram Parish. Rabbi Avram Parish, when he heard that the Frierdiker Rebbe was coming to Israel, and he heard how little money the Frierdiker Rebbe had, he went and sold, I think, his farm. What did he sell? He sold everything he had, and he says, "What do I need money for?" The whole money. He took all his money, whatever parnasa he had, and when the Frierdiker Rebbe arrived in Eretz Yisrael, he gave it to the Frierdiker Rebbe and he said, "This is what's for you. So when you travel around Eretz Yisrael, you should be able to travel how a Rebbe deserves to." Yeah. Are you going to give anybody else a chance to ask you a question? It's all you.
If you're making a 30-day fundraiser,
Today's day, nobody makes 30 days.
You still need time to bring it to your shlime and get the animals.
Okay. So.
That takes a few days to
So?
check for moment.
No, but you're not getting the animal. This is talking about the carbon tzibur that the people in the Beis Hamikdash. You just give money; they'll take care of the animal. Number one, Rabbi Chazan, what do you think about this? I just thought about it. Today's days, every time there's a fundraiser, it's a matching fund. The machzis shekel is also every stock is a matching fund. V'nosnu, you give, and they should give you back, right? Every stock you give is a matching fund. Huh? Yeah. All right. So I'll be Messiah. I tried to print out what I wanted to say, but of course my printer didn't work, so I'm shooting from memory. So I'll bring Messiah with a dehead. There is a din, we're so lucky if you follow the Rebbe's Eiros and you learn Chitas and Rambam, there's never a day that's dull. You always have something to shmak. So there's a Rambam. It's not now, it happened a couple weeks ago, but when I learned this, it really hit me. In Choshen, the Rambam says, you guys don't know that but you, what kind of fights do you have between yourselves? Whether basketball or football, and lunch at 12 or 12, 1. But mature adults, with houses, extensions, so many problems. Yeah. So what happens if your neighbor decides to make an extension? Okay, I can't. Somebody just called me, and he says, "Rabbi, I got a shayla." He's a very optimistic yid, and he wants to know if he needs to do tshuva. Why? Because a couple of years ago he made his apartment, his house, he turned it into a 2-family or 3-family, whatever, and he actually got the legal zoning for a 2-family. Fine, he did everything right. But he sees the last couple of years when the government is sending him his tax bill, they're not charging him like a 2-family. They're charging, he must be not Jewish, huh? They're charging him like 1 family. He wants to know if he needs a kapara. So anyway, you always find all these fights. I said, Zelos Akum is Osir, Talos Akum is Mutter. Where am I up to? Oh, so an extension. If you do it in your house and it's not hurting anybody, what's the problem? The problem is the guy built a 3rd floor, a 2nd, 3rd floor, and when he's building his floor, forget you're going like this, Hezekiah. I'm not talking about Hezekiah. You have no more sunlight. It's very tunkel. Hello, I'm talking to you. It's very tunkel. Now, you used to have an open air, it used to be sunny, but now because of the new extension, it's getting dark. Usually, listen to this halacha, and this is what me and you have to live with. Usually, for people to be able to say, listen, if you didn't like what I was doing, why did you let me do it? Well, I'm already in it already for a year or 2. You should have stopped it before it got anywhere. But if once I'm there a couple of years, 3 years, it's too late. If you didn't like what I was doing, why did you let me there for 3 years? Right, chazaka. There is one damage. There is one form of damage that you don't have to wait 3 years, and you've proven that the guy doesn't mind. If you block somebody's light, if you block somebody's sunlight, or it became more of a tunkel there, and he let you pass 1 day, and he didn't stop you, you could keep it. Says the Rambam, because there is nobody that sees his lights being dimmed and stays quiet. If he stayed quiet, he doesn't mind.
You're sick that day.
Huh?
You're sick that day.
Said
It's different.
Rabbi
Only
Sai.
if he sees it.
Rabbi Sai. You know what that means to me and you? The Eibishter gave us a Torah. The Eibishter gave us light. If 1 day passes and the light's being dimmed, Rahman al-Islam, and you're getting caught up with this, and you're getting caught up with this, remember, 1 day, the Chassidim used to say, Allah used to say, that before Rosh Hashanah you get prepared. You should get very well prepared. One of the things they used to say is 3 days before Rosh Hashanah, stay away from the Yetzer Hara. Why is 3 days? What's the number 3 days? Because in Shulchan Aruch it says that a soine, an enemy can't judge you. What's the definition of a soine? Somebody you didn't talk for 3 days. Don't talk to your Yetzer Hara for 3 days, and he won't be able to be involved in your case. Over here, remember, if you segatnished 1 day, if something you're getting slow and it's getting fartunkel, then 1 day you let it pass, and you weren't moicha, you didn't stand up and say, no, I'm not going to let 1 day go by without learning. Chitas Rambam, 1. If you let 1 day pass and you didn't make a macha, he wins. Rabbi say, 1 day. Chalamoyed Pesach. Shushan Purim. You're going to be here Purim, right? You're going to be here Purim? Shushan Purim. Sure. It's just, I'm still drunk from yesterday, yeah? Every single day. You miss 1 day, you don't make a macha, and you tell the Yetzer Hara gay fighting, he wins. He's kind of shmisa. Don't let that happen.
Well,